South Florida. The Conscious Co-op meets monthly at the Boca Raton Wyndham Hotel with a catered gourmet vegan lunch by Farmer's Table. These meetings feature guided meditations and a wellness-minded speaker always dedicated to educating on a more conscious way of living. For more information, visit noahcrane.com. That's NOAHCRANE.com or call 561-774-1991.
Hello everyone, my name is Noah Crane. Welcome to Create Your Greenest Grass. Connect with me each week to create a life you love. Now let's get started. Hello and welcome to Create Your Greenest Grass. My name is Noah Crane and I'm super excited that you're joining me today. To tell you a little bit about myself, I'm also the author of the book, The Grass is Greenest Where I Am. There's my book. I'm so proud of it. It just got published. Super excited to share my message with you and help you along your path. I really believe that when we share what we know with each other, we're able to live a much more empowering and powerful life. We make the right connections and we're able to really shift and change. I'm all about the shifting and changing, breaking old cycles and creating new cycles. And it's the constant work that we do in our life by breaking old cycles and recreating ourselves. We always want to recreate and keep reinventing ourselves and who we are so we can keep up with the flow of life. I'm also the co-founder of an incredible group called Conscious Co-op. Conscious Co-op is incredible. It brings all the healers and all the people together for connection, love, and light. We meet once a month at the Wyndham Hotel in Boca Raton, 1950 Glades Road. We meet in the ballroom on the second floor. Tickets are between $30 and $40. It depends on when you purchase them. The earlier you purchase them, the cheaper they are. And the program is all about empowerment and connection. We always have meditation with Sunny Arfa from Feel Great Meditate. We always have an inspirational speaker. This month we have a whole panel of 5 people that healed naturally and holistically from different elements, different diseases that they were dealing with. So they healed naturally and they're going to share with us. How exciting is that to have a panel of people sharing how they healed holistically? And also, we also going to have at our meeting tomorrow, Cecilia St. King. She's going to be singing. She's a peace troubadour, and she's going to be performing. She's going to have a concert on the 22nd, which is Saturday night, for the International Day of Peace. And we're all about supporting her and supporting more peace and love in the world. So I hope you can support her. Her voice is amazing. Her message is amazing. Really touches your heart and soul. I'm grateful, beyond grateful to have her in my life. And also Travis Thomas, who's here with me tonight. He's an improv comedian. He's incredible, and I'll tell you more about him in a minute. He's going to be sharing his fun way of thinking with us and thinking on our feet and whatever he's going to do, which we're going to be talking about tonight. Our next Conscious Co-op meeting actually is tomorrow. How cool is that? Tomorrow, Friday, the 21st, that's our Conscious Co-op meeting. And it's going to be an amazing meeting. It always is. People walk away with their cup really full of love and light, and there's nothing like it. I haven't seen an event quite like it yet. It's beautiful. It's incredible. If you ever get a chance to come and be a part of it, you will not regret being there. To introduce my guest for tonight, Travis Thomas is an improviser and a performance coach and the founder of Live Yes, and
yes.
I love that. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Noah, thanks for having me. This is a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Travis. Please tell the audience, since they're just meeting you for the first time on my show, a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, so like you said, I'm a performance coach, but first and foremost, I'm an improviser. So I started improvisational comedy about 20 years ago in Boston. And I had never done any performing really up until that time. My wife and I had been married for just a few years at that point, pre-kids. And I always wanted to do improv comedy. And I signed up at a training center. And lo and behold, after a year and a half, I got the opportunity to start performing. And I worked my way. And I fell in love with improvisation. And but more than just being a performer, I fell in love with what were the ideas and principles that went into improvisation. And I always wanted to do more with improv beyond just being a performer. And so that's led me on a crazy journey, of which I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about today. But in the process, I became a a leadership coach, a life coach, and now a performance coach, working with organizations, going into schools, working with college and professional sports teams and youth sports teams, using these ideas of improvisation about how they apply and how they're relevant in our everyday lives.
That's wonderful. Tell me a little bit about your workshops that you do. Do you do workshops in those places?
Yes, I do. So companies will hire me to come in and do workshops, usually around the idea of how do we create healthier, more vibrant, more high performance cultures. And so, which is what improvisation is all about. And a lot of people look at improvisation from sort of the outcome from an entertainment standpoint, which is, oh, okay, a group of people got up on stage, and if they're good, they did some entertaining work. But what I'm really fascinated with is how is that possible? What are the principles in place that allow for teams and organizations to perform at a high level? And if you break down improvisation into what makes that possible, improvisation is possible because it's built on a group of people having a shared vision of what they're trying to create. And then they create authentic, safe relationships. Relationships where there's a high level of trust, value, and respect. And when you have those relationships in place, the collaboration, the improvisation takes care of itself, because you can probably relate. When you trust somebody, you can take risks, you can be vulnerable. And that's what makes great improvisers able to improvise, is that bond, that trust. No matter what I do on stage, I know you have my back. And so we can take that into the sports realm, we can take that into the corporate world, we can take that into our personal relationships. When we are creating relationships that are based on authenticity and trust and safety, there's going to be high levels of collaboration, creativity, innovation, and ultimately happiness.
And it's all about creating, right?
Absolutely, it's creating sort of the best version of yourself, right? I do a daily 3 or 4 minute video every morning on Instagram, on my Instagram story, called Yes Daily. And yes, the Yes Daily, the YES, stands for Your Excellent Self. So ideas that we all have this version of ourselves that is sort of what the ideal version of ourselves. And sometimes we get there, and most times we fall short, but we have an idea of what that looks like. And so for me, we're constantly striving to be that person that we desire to be on a more consistent basis.
Makes total sense. We were talking about, what does no mistakes mean?
Yeah, well, an improvisation is one of the chapters in my book.
Yeah, and show them your book.
Yes, so
he's also the author of the book.
So 3 words for getting unstuck: live, yes, and. And so in the book, using my background in leadership, coaching, life coaching, and then improvisation, it's kind of 10 principles that help anybody get unstuck. And one huge improv principle is the idea of there are no mistakes. And what that means is, on stage as an improviser, since there's no script, since you're making it up on the spot, there really are no mistakes. Now, maybe you don't know what a word is, and so you start talking about something that you don't have any knowledge about, therefore you're making a mistake, or you say something accidentally. If you are working with a good improviser, they are going to take whatever you did and they're going to yes and it. We'll talk more about yes and in a minute, but they're going to build off of it. They're going to support it, and they're going to, which will ultimately take it in a new direction. And so the best scenes in improvisation often come from mistakes, not because your scene partners are pointing out the mistake, but they're actually justifying and building off of the mistake in a creative way that ultimately turns the mistake into genius. And so if we apply that to our own lives, right, we all have an idea of what we want to happen, but then we have what actually happens. And so we can look at life through that lens of, well, if it doesn't go the way that I wanted it to go, it must have been a mistake, compared to, well, here's what I wanted to happen, here's what happened. So I need to go with what happened. I need to say yes and to what happened. And oftentimes, it ends up being a better solution, maybe down the road, but it's always going to take us on a better journey than simply always getting what we think should happen. So therefore, embracing this idea that there are no mistakes in our life.
And I think it goes a lot into self-acceptance.
It's huge, yeah. Well, just the idea of acceptance, period. And that's what the yes and yes and in improvisation is: acceptance. So if you and I are doing a scene, Noah, and we walk on stage, we have no idea what the other person's going to say.
Right.
And you look at me and you point and you're like, Travis, that train's coming right at us.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was your idea. You just threw an idea out there. All I have to do is yes and it. I say yes, and there's someone tied to the tracks. So the yes and yes and is the acceptance. I accept your idea. The and is how we build off of it. The and is where we have power. And so to apply that to our lives, I say this all the time, we don't have to like what's going on, but we have to be in acceptance of it. Because we can't get through anything until we look it straight in the eye and say, yes, this is what's happening right now, and how am I going to handle it? How would I respond from the best version of myself? How would I respond if I were on purpose? And that, therefore, now we are living yes and. But it's that acceptance. You know, most of us, I'm guilty like anyone, we can deny things forever, and we just hope that it'll go away. But eventually, we've got to look it in the face and say, yes, this is what's happening. How am I going to go through it? And if you're like me, you look at some of the most difficult things you've gone through in your life. It's when we finally accepted it and worked our way through it that we came out on the other side much stronger, much more powerful, much wiser. But we had to go through it in order to.
Yes.
We had to accept it.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we are really hard on ourselves.
Yes.
And I think most people don't judge us as harsh as we judge ourselves.
Absolutely.
Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, you think about the number of thoughts that go through our heads on a daily basis, and think how many of those are negative towards ourselves. I think they've done the research before, and it's like thousands of negative thoughts we have about ourselves every day. And someone asked me once, imagine if you talked to other people the way that you talk to yourself in your head. We would never be so hard on people as hard as we are on ourselves in our head, and sometimes out loud. And so that just that self-care, being patient with ourselves, being compassionate with ourselves, forgiving ourselves, and for me it's kind of accepting that like we're a constant work in progress, and maybe like I got frustrated about something today, right? It was like I couldn't get a power washer to start, so I'm having my own little tantrum. But then it's being able to like forgive myself and go, okay, well I was less frustrated this time maybe than I was the previous time. So having that self-care for ourselves.
Yeah, and I'm constantly, just so anybody who doesn't know me, I forgive myself every second of the day. I really do.
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason that I'm able to move forward so fast, because I think the more we forgive ourselves, the faster we can let go and move forward and not be stuck in the past. So that forgiveness part, to me, if anything you can do differently, forgive yourself every day, every moment, and just all you have is what is in the present moment and the future to recreate. Don't worry about what happened.
Absolutely. Well, and what you don't forgive, you carry with you. And if you really think about it from a practical standpoint, right? If what we don't forgive, we're just dragging it with us into our new reality, into the present moment.
Absolutely.
And you look how much stress, how much anxiety, how much we can mentally carry around with us, and eventually something's going to break down. It's our ability to release, to surrender, to forgive, which allows us to kind of move into the present moment, let go of the past, stay in the present moment, don't worry about the future. Which is what improvisation is all about. For me, I do some yoga. My wife is a much bigger yogi than I am. I do some meditation, but I'm not awesome at it. Improvisation for me has been the thing that has really helped me with mindfulness the most, because to improvise well, you really have to be fully engulfed in the present moment. You can't think too far ahead. You can't, you're not thinking about what's happened in the past. You're totally connecting with somebody else or other people and having to respond to the present moment.
That makes a lot of sense to me. How about let's talk about something that's very important to me. And you're a great speaker, I can tell just speaking with you. For me, the hardest part was getting out of my own way so I can believe in myself, so I can get my voice out in the world. It was I actually became a yoga teacher, and now I'm telling everything about myself. I became a yoga teacher to find my voice.
Yeah.
That was part of it, because I was so afraid to speak. And being a yoga teacher, I was able to speak in front of people and have people listen to what I had to say. Does improv really help you with finding your voice? It seems like it would also help you in that way.
Yeah, I think so. I think, and I recommend an improvisation, a beginner improvisation class to anybody, whether you have a desire to perform or not, because you're going to get introduced to the principles of improvisation, which I feel will just help you in every aspect of your life. But this idea of finding your voice, when you have to get up and speak in front of people, when you have to think on your feet and respond in the moment, it's going to bring out that authenticity. And so whenever, I have worked with people in the past and continue to work with people, whether it's on their presentation skills or being more confident as a speaker, and the thing that I focus on most is authenticity. What feels authentic to you? It's not trying to be someone else. You can emulate what someone else does, but at the end of the day, it's finding that persona, finding that stage presence that is true and authentic to you, and that's what people are going to connect with. And you don't even have to be hugely dynamic, but if you're real, people connect. I think we as people, we connect with the person that feels like it's their genuine voice, and that they genuinely care. And I think we give people a lot more leeway on their presentation skills when we feel like they're being sort of vulnerable and honest and authentic to themselves.
That's true. And are we going to be doing improv tomorrow? Are we going to
Absolutely.
Are we going to be getting out of our chairs and?
We are,
Yes?
and so I don't know if that's a good thing in
That's
promoting
so cool.
the Conscious Co-op, because
That
sometimes
is
people are like, well, I'm not
good.
going now, right?
No,
if I'm going to
no.
have to improvise.
I like it.
But no, so in that time period, we're going to do some exercises which will help people feel and experience
Ooh, I like
just
that.
how relevant, how powerful, just sort of applying this idea of yes and in a very real way can be.
I had my yoga teacher for 300-hour. I'm a 500-hour yoga
Okay.
teacher. Her name is Terry Cooper. I love her. And she always said yes, and that was the one thing she always
Yeah.
said, yes, and when she always used to coach us on, getting out of our own way, and
Yes.
she was a lot about chakras and balancing our chakras, and we went really deep into our purpose and who we are in life. She's absolutely amazing. But in a conversation, when you say yes and, she always would say yes and.
Yes,
So that
yes.
always brings back that
Yeah.
memory with her.
Yeah,
And she
and-
would go really deep.
And when we connect that yes and to our purpose, right, to what is meaningful to us, and
Right.
for those of us who have put some time into thinking, what does my purpose feel like? And I think a lot of times people mistake purpose with what they do, and it's not what you do. It's the inspiration, the motivation. It's the passion that you get for everything that you do. And so when we respond to life, I think when we respond to our yes and, when our and response is connected to sort of that authentic purpose, regardless of what happens, I think we end up feeling good about ourselves, and we ultimately, I think, end up feeling fulfilled.
I love that. That's great. What is the connection between spirituality and improvisation?
Yeah, no, that's great. I don't often get a chance to speak about spirituality a whole lot with the work that I do, because I'm going into companies or I'm going into sports teams, and they're not necessarily always bringing me in for my spirituality as much as the ideas and building culture and building relationships. But for me, improvisation is a deeply spiritual practice, and a practice that really sort of supports my spirituality. I've grew up in a very spiritual family. I feel like I've been on a genuine spiritual journey my whole life, and so when I found improvisation again when I was around 25, what I loved about it again is this idea of having to adapt, having to adjust, having to accept what is going on, but moving with it and being in collaboration with it. And I think what improvisation teaches you is that ability to constantly be in agreement with reality, and then respond again from the best spiritual response that you have. And so it's not resistance. You're not resisting what's going on. You're surrendering. You're in flow with what's going on.
I like that, the flow.
Yes, it is. It's. I know one of the chapters in your book is be like water.
Yes.
Right. And I
Yes.
think that's what improvisation is. When improvisation's done well, it's like jazz, right? It's just one or more people just totally flowing together in total collaboration, and there's still tension. Right, there's still tension in improvisation, but the tension, you're still in collaboration with it. And I love that idea of just being like water, where you're not. One of my quotes is, "You cannot progress until you say yes." right?
That's
When,
awesome.
most of us, when we say, no, this isn't happening, or no, this shouldn't be happening, or why, God, why is this happening? And it's okay to question me more than, like, we can get frustrated with what's happening. But the quicker we go, okay, this is what's happening, how do I move with it and be in collaboration with it? And so for me, it's improvisation is very humbling, because I can be on stage and think, I've got a great idea. This is going to be hilarious. All right, Noah, wait till I drop this idea on her. And all of a sudden you come out and you completely make me something that I didn't know I was going to be, or you completely take the scene in a different direction. I've got to be able to let go of what I thought it was going to be. So I've got to surrender that. And I still have to be so totally focused and engaged with you to go, okay, here's our new reality. I thought reality was this. Here's our new reality. And how do I build? How do I build? And how do we build collaboratively this new idea together?
Yes, I love that. And it sounds like a solution. Would you say?
Yeah, I would say it's solution based. But again, it's one of those things, like, it's not controlling the outcome, right? Because you can never control the outcome in an improvised scene,
Right.
unless you're improvising by yourself. But there's no fun in that.
Right.
So it's not about controlling the outcome. It's about responding the best way that I can right now. And so when I go in and work with sports teams, and I'm a performance coach for a soccer club here in Florida, what I'm trying to help these young kids and older kids is high-performing athletes have that ability to not be outcome-focused, but to be process and action-focused, to be engaged in the moment, not the outcome. Because we can't control the outcome. We can only we can only respond to what is happening now in the best way possible that will help influence the outcome.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And it's learning to shift and change directions when needed.
Oh, it's the ultimate ability to adapt.
And making the best out of everything, and probably being grateful along the journey.
Absolutely, yeah, because you're not in resistance with it. I heard the analogy once of the difference between cows and bulls, and this could totally be wrong, but I love the analogy. But if a storm is coming from the west, cows will lay down in the field, and then when the storm is overhead, they try to run away from it, which ultimately keeps the storm on them longer, because they're trying to run away from it. The storm is following them, and then finally it passes them. Where bulls will see the storm coming and they run at the storm, and therefore they meet it, and then they go through it, and they're both moving in opposite directions, so they move through it quicker. And I like to think of improvisation that way, and being able to say yes and to life, which is we see the thing that's coming at us and we run towards it, and the quicker we run towards it, the quicker we run through it.
Sounds like stepping into your fears.
Oh, it's absolutely it's stepping into your fears. It's running at the dog. It's exactly that. It's and I always say it's recognizing the fears that, someone said, does that mean I have to, everything that I'm afraid of, do I have to go face that fear? And it's like, no, but you have to ask yourself, are the things that you're afraid of preventing you from moving down the path that you ultimately want to be on? And so for me, if being a public speaker and being a trainer, if I'm nervous in front of people, if that's a fear, well, that's a fear I need to take head on, because it's totally going to impact my career as a speaker. But my fear of sharks, right, probably isn't going to, unless I get a job with National Geographic and I'm shark diving on the
That's
TV.
true.
So
You don't have to face it.
Yes, but it's not about handling every fear. It's about being really clear on, is this a fear that's preventing my growth? And those are the ones to run at.
Yes, and what I like too is, this is the way I put it, is we want to be really self-expressed in the world. And to me, being self-expressed in the world is being able to paint the world in many different colors, use many different paint brushes and brush. And when we have fear around us, I always say fear will freeze you, love will free you. When we have fear, we're more frozen. We're not being self-expressed. And the more self-expressed we are, the more creative we are, the more we can connect to what our true purpose is. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. And I know Wayne Dyer, I think, used to use the analogy of the difference between an oak tree and a palm tree, right? An oak tree in a hurricane is in trouble, right? Because it's rigid.
Right.
When those strong winds come, it's gonna snap.
Right.
Where a palm tree is so flexible and adaptable that the prongs can get blown and bent all the way down to the ground, but it endures the storm. And when the storm passes, it returns to its erect, upright position. And so I like to think, I often ask myself, am I responding like a palm tree or an oak tree?
I love that.
So,
that's great.
yeah, and you still have those strong roots. Those roots would allow you to be adaptable and flexible.
Yes. So how can people find you? I know we have your information there, but is there any other thing? Tell me your event coming up. You have an event coming up. Let's tell the listeners about that.
Yeah, so my website is liveyesand.com, one word, liveyesand.com. I'm all over social media.
What's your Instagram?
At liveyesand, or just so liveyesand. Like I said, I do a daily on my story, right? I do a daily, the yes daily. And then connected to that is I still perform in improvisation. I co-founded a group with two other guys in 2004 up in Jupiter, Florida. And we perform, once or twice a month just to stay fresh. And it's a great show. And we happen to have a show Saturday night in Jupiter. And it's, we like to say it's a PG-13 show, if anyone's concerned about bringing kids. But it's a great show. And it's my ability to be able to still kind of put yes and into action in a very entertaining way. And so if we put my cell phone out there or anything like that, people can call me and I can get discounted tickets for anyone who wants to come to that show on Saturday.
Wonderful. Well, Travis, time runs by fast.
It does.
I'm so grateful for you being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Noah.
And I look forward to tomorrow, to having you
super
on Conscious
excited
Co-op.
about tomorrow.
I want to thank you all for being here with us tonight. It's truly a pleasure to be here with you. Till next time, please remember the mantra, the grass is greenest where I am. The grass is greenest where I am, because it really is. You get to create your own best life. Love yourself. Take care of the people you love. Have a beautiful evening. Namaste.
Namaste.
Hi, this is Noah Crane. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Remember, the grass is greenest where you are. Tune in next week as we keep exploring and finding and recreating a life we love.
Live a more conscious life by joining other like-minded individuals and businesses, as together we create a more conscious community connection with Conscious Co-op South Florida. The Conscious Co-op meets monthly at the Boca Raton Wyndham Hotel with a catered gourmet vegan lunch by Farmer's Table. These meetings feature guided meditations and a wellness-minded speaker always dedicated to educating on a more conscious way of living. For more information, visit noahcrane.com. That's NOA.